Addressing the story of the leaked initial draft from the Supreme Court showing they voted to overturn Roe v. Wade, Joe Biden said, quote, MAGA is the most extreme political organization in American history, which is objectively false. It's not. Trump supporters in the MAGA movement are actually fairly moderate when you look at most data points. But I don't know what story or data point or idea exists that would make that even a reasonable opinion to say. Certainly you can disagree with MAGA, but the most extreme political organization in American history? Biden went on to say that the Ultra Maga agenda would ban LGBT children from classrooms if Roe v. Wade is overturned, which makes literally no sense. Those things have nothing to do with each other. I think he was trying to mash up the parental rights and education bill in Florida with Roe versus Wade. Sure. Now, this is particularly irresponsible because it's coming off of rioting we saw last night as people marched through the streets, smashed police car windows and attacked cops. Joe Biden comes out and says the most extreme political organization in American history. It's not true. The left has continually moved further and further left. Or the better way to put it, I suppose, is that left-wing positions have become more pronounced and more extreme than they used to be. I don't want to play the left-right game necessarily because they mean different things to different people. The left hasn't necessarily become more communist than they've ever been. Those who want communism want communism. But in terms of certain policy ideas, the left has continually embraced more extreme versions of these ideas, notably abortion, which is the big deal today. It used to be that Democrats were in favor of restrictions. Now they don't want any restrictions. Republicans wanted to ban abortion. They still just want to ban abortion. So they haven't become more extreme politically. They're kind of in the same place they were. In fact, many Republicans have become a bit more moderate, as we saw with Donald Trump's move into the Republican Party. But I got to point it out. With everything we've seen over the past few days, with the rioting, not the worst rioting we've ever seen, but with 2020, with those riots, with the current state of politics, with statements made from progressive political commentators on the left, civil war. I know, perhaps it's a cliche at this point, Tim Pool saying it, but I think more and more evidence lines up to show this is the case. And I think one thing that people are probably overlooking is how demographic dynamics affect the political fabric of this country. If you take a look at the divide between young left and young right, it is pronounced. And when millennials reach boomer age, the divide will be dramatic. Right now, if you take a look at polls, you can see that there is a divide between Democrats and Republicans, but they mostly live in a similar world. I think the Democrats are better, but I think the Republicans are better. When you look to the younger generation, you have a complete rejection of the two-party system and the establishment. This is true for the left, and it's true for the right. And that means both sides hate the political structure, want dramatic change, aren't getting it. And of course, when the boomer generation is gone and millennials take over, you're going to see a whole lot of this. Let me show you the demographics. It's something I've talked about before. As people who are 18 today age up, become 28, 10 years from now, the votes are going to be more dramatic. They're going to be calling for more dramatic policy. They're going to be defending more dramatic action. The right will respond. It will get violent. So I don't know if we see civil war in the next few years. Perhaps it will be a mostly digital conflict, like a culture war we're already experiencing. But I don't know how we survive, especially as the right starts to gain a foothold with things like overturning Roe v. Wade. We return to states' rights, which results in a more polarization geographically. And then you will have blue states be overtly blue and red states be overtly red. And then eventually they say, enough. There is no reason for us to be part of one country. And then you get a fracturing. Not too dissimilar to what we saw with the first Civil War, states competing against other states. So I want to show you exactly what Joe Biden is saying and why he's saying it. To be honest, he's saying this to earn votes for the midterms. He is sacrificing the fabric of this country for votes. But what can I say? I think the Republicans do something similar. I think as much as there are people of principle who are standing for their principles, there are establishment shills who don't care one way or another and will burn this country to the ground for power. The arguments coming out of the left about what will happen next with Roe v. Wade are insane. Swalwell saying that Republicans want to overturn Loving v. Virginia, which enshrined interracial marriage. Are you nuts? That's not going to happen. To be fair, the left said, yeah, well, y'all said Roe v. Wade wouldn't be overturned either. And all of these Trump justices said it was settled law. Fair point. I don't know what will happen. Maybe weird things will get overturned. I'd hate to see it, but I think either way, there will be a crumbling in this country. Let's take a look at what's going on with this story. Before we get started, my friends, head over to timcast.com and become a member to help support the work we do. If you like these videos and you like the reporting we do at timcast.com, I implore you, become a member, because that is how the website continues to exist. How do we employ these journalists, and how do we seek to employ more? And we will employ more. It's because as you become members, that funding we can use to grow the website. As a member, you'll get access to exclusive segments of the Timcast IRL podcast Monday through Thursday at 11 p.m., as well as all of our other shows when we have members-only content. We have the Green Room behind the scenes with our guests, and you're going to be helping fund our culture jamming as marketing, which is going to be really exciting stuff that will challenge the establishment. So again, timcast.com, become a member. But don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Let's read this first story from the Daily Mail. MAGA is the most extreme political organization in American history. Biden warns of Republicans' Ultra Maga agenda. Now, I want to pause real quick. You know what really boiled my blood? Joe Biden said this. It was a quote. He said it. He said the most extreme. And when I was looking through mainstream press, they all tried to downplay it, ignore it, or not show what our president of unity had been saying. Politico changed his quote to say the most extreme in recent history, not what he said. Disgusting. Many others outright ignore the quote in their headlines. CNN says Biden goes after the Ultra Maga agenda as he sharpens his midterm message. This is called burying the lead. The president saying this of half the country, my friends, this is a deplorable moment. When Hillary Clinton came out and said it's a basket of deplorables, that spelled doom for her campaign. Same thing for Joe Biden here. Take a look at this, these nonsense arguments. So we know now Biden called them the most extreme organization. He also warned the GOP could ban LGBT children from classrooms if Roe v. Wade is overturned. What does that mean? And signaled they could even reverse the 1965 Griswold v. Connecticut case that struck down a state law banning the use of contraceptives by married couples. What? It was a ramp up in rhetoric from Biden following the Supreme Court leak that caused a firestorm and further condemnation of Florida's so-called Don't Say Gay bill. You mean the Parental Rights and Education bill, which also is the Don't Say Straight bill. I want to make sure that's clear for all of you. What happens if you have state changes? If you have state changes the law saying that children who are LGBTQ can't be in classrooms with other children? Why? Where did that come from? You made that up, dude. What would happen if Democrats started forcefully castrating children? Yeah, they're grooming kids. Many of them are. I'm not saying every single Democrat or every single, individual who wants to have these conversations with kids is doing it. I'm saying some are. Can I make a straw man too and make up a hypothetical? No one is talking about banning LGBTQ kids from the classroom. What are the next things they're going to attack? Because this MAGA crowd is really the most extreme political organization that's existed in American history. And then he says, recent American history. I suppose it's fair to point out that a news organization, depending on their political leaning, will choose to highlight one or the other. But he said both. Fair point. I think he said existed in American history and then recent American history. He's trying to walk it back. Okay. I believe I have, it's not true either way, fundamentally not true. I believe I have the rights that I believe I have the rights that I have, not because the government gave them to me, but because I am just a child of God. I exist, Biden added. It's fascinating. When it comes to the issue of abortion, I suppose the question is, when does life begin? Because apparently Democrats believe after birth and Republicans believe at conception. And that's the real heart of the argument with abortion. The president's fiery attack on Republicans came just after Trump-backed hillbilly elegy author J.D. Vance won the Ohio GOP Senate primary in a test on former President Trump's hold over the Republican Party. On Monday night, a bombshell Supreme Court draft opinion was leaked, showing that a majority of justices were in agreement to overturn Roe v. Wade. Okay, Joe Biden wants to say recent history. Fine. What does that mean? How far back do you go, Joe? You want to say the most extreme in American history? Then I need only ask you of your own opinions from timcast.com. Biden's changed position on Roe versus Wade. Since he entered D.C., President Biden has had a varying stance on the issue of abortion and access of reproductive health care. All right, let's see this. In 1982, when Biden was a senator from Delaware, he voted to end Roe v. Wade. Under the former President Ronald Reagan, the administration was focused on ending abortion rights at the federal level. An amendment was proposed to the Senate Judiciary Committee to allow individual states to overturn Roe v. Wade. In March of 1982, Biden was among those lawmakers to vote in support of this amendment. Following the vote, he said, "I'm probably a victim or a product, however you want to phrase it, of my background," citing his Catholic upbringing. Recent history, Joe? You agree with the MAGA agenda. Right. So why is he doing this? The Hill says, Biden seeks to paint GOP as extreme. CNN says, midterm message. And now we understand. Let me tell you why I think civil war. Okay, and I'll show you the polls because I mentioned this before. The younger generation will be more extreme than the older generation. More polarized is a better way to put it. But the phenomena is simple. A news article gets written. Donald Trump is a bigot. 1 million views. The next day, they're like, what else can we write? And they say, well, we can't write the same thing again. They try. Doesn't get any views. It's like, guys, you told us Trump was a bigot yesterday. We know. Okay, well, he's the worst bigot. Okay, well, I'll read that one. Then they say Donald Trump is a proud racist. Then they say Donald Trump is the worst racist. Donald Trump is the most racist. Donald Trump is almost as bad as Hitler. Then Donald Trump is as bad as. Donald Trump is, and then Donald Trump is worse than. Because they have to keep one-upping the narrative. They got to keep you hooked. The addiction, it's wearing off, man. It's wearing off. We need a bigger dose of that hate. But you know what the issue is? I think the right and the left are in a similar position in their hate for one another. My issue is, and I'm the last person to deny our position in this conflict. I've had people say, but Tim, don't you think you're contributing to all of this as well? Of course we are. We just happen to be right. Of course, the left says the same thing. But we are objectively right. My positions politically are not overtly right-wing. None of them are. I've argued extensively over the past several days about being pro-choice and why, and wanting some restrictions, but believing there should not be, that, in the first trimester, it's probably got to be pro-choice with some restrictions. And I've stood by that the entire time. Certainly my political positions don't make me right-wing. What could be? It could be that I said Kyle Rittenhouse was acting in self-defense. Turned out that was true. It could be that I said the people who were let into the Capitol building likely will not be charged. That turned out, or not convicted, sorry. That turned out to be true on the grounds where it was specifically individuals who were being let in. The left believes lies. Covington, Smollett, Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Ahmaud Arbery, Russiagate, Ukrainegate. I can keep going on with this list. The ghost of Kiev, there's a new one for you. They believe all of the lies. And that's what separates left and right today. So when the left says the right does this and the right does that, I'm like, the right does a lot of these things people don't like. I can respect that you don't like those things, but your worldview is based upon lies. So when you say you don't like something, but you don't know what you're talking about, you got a problem. Biden is sharpening his midterm message by continuing the addiction to hate. And this is what you get. From Fox News, LA abortion protests turn violent. Protesters lob rocks and bottles at cops, smash cruiser's window. At least one officer is injured. Man climbs SF Salesforce Tower in protest against abortion. Okay. Can I just point something out for all of you? California is not banning abortion. Why are you going out and smashing up cop cars in a state that will never ban abortion? Why are you climbing a building, a tower in San Francisco, a city that will never ban abortion? It doesn't make sense. There's no logic behind what they are doing. They are just violent extremists for the sake of being violent extremists. You give them any reason to go out and they will go out and destroy their own communities. And it's what they do. Now we can see the narratives emerging from the left. Once again, extreme rhetoric that makes no sense. Black Republicans slam Swalwell for saying GOP oppose interracial marriage. Quote, I'm in an interracial marriage. Rep. Byron Donalds calls Swalwell a fool for interracial marriage comment. Eric Swalwell, Democrat, said, The Republicans won't stop with banning abortion. They want to ban interracial marriage. Do you want to save that? Well, then you should probably vote. I will never vote for a Democrat so long as they have these people in their party, and so long as they do not remove people like Northam, who did a segment defending abortion at dilation. Dude, the Democrats have gone insane. Now, look, tell me where the Republicans have gone extreme. Legit, I'm willing to hear it. Never been a big fan of Republican policies for the most part. Abortion, you say. They're banning abortion. Makes them more extreme, you say. They've always wanted to do this. They've not moved from that position. They want to do it. They've wanted to do it. That's what they're doing. They want to give tax cuts to the wealthy. They've always done that. They want to shore up our borders. The Democrats wanted to do that. They want to build border barriers. Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders wanted to do that. 2008. Well, they want to bring manufacturing back to the United States. The Democrats wanted to do that. Tell me what they've become more extreme on. What? The people storming the Capitol? The rioters? Well, yeah. Okay. Yet those people should go to prison. The Republican Party condemns those people. Like, I don't like the Republican Party, but if you follow the news, they've been smack talking them. Mike Pence. It's fascinating that when the Republican Party adopted more populist principles that the left liked, all of a sudden they've become more extreme and far right. I'm not playing that game. The left just says lies, lies, lies. The Republicans are white nationalists. What? Look at this. Wesley Hunt says, "Hi, Eric. My name is Wesley Hunt. I'm a Republican nominee in a congressional district that is 70% white. I'm black. I'm in an interracial marriage, and my wife and I have 2 biracial daughters. Republicans are celebrating diversity while white liberals like yourself race bait." Byron Donald says, "You're such a fool. What is wrong with you?" More gaslighting from the radical left. Hardly any Americans oppose interracial marriage. A Gallup survey last year found that 94% of Americans approve of marriages between black Americans and white Americans, and there are other races as well. Why would they say this? Why would Swalwell make up something so absurd? Now, nobody thought that Roe v. Wade was going to be overturned initially when these Supreme Court justices were being brought in. I should say many people speculated it was possible, but it was far from confirmed. Upon hearing the oral arguments, people were like, okay, this is coming. This may actually happen. And then afterwards, NBC and a bunch of leftists said, that's it, Roe v. Wade is done. Okay. Roe v. Wade is recent history. It's 1973. We're going back just shy of 50 years. So many people who are alive today, and I think probably the majority of voters, or close to, because mostly older people, were alive to see this ruling happen. And may have actually been, teenagers, or some people in their late teens, early adulthood, watching it happen. So this is recent history. We grew up with it. It was law as long as I could remember. It was precedent, I should say, settled law. And now it's changing. But going back to how it was in the 1970s, they keep saying it's going back to the 1950s. It's going back to the 1970s. But that isn't extreme. Extreme would be a ban on abortion. Going back to states deciding just means we're going back to federalism or republicanism. And the Republicans who want a ban on abortion aren't even doing it. They're doing it in red states for sure. But they've already had those laws in the books for the most part. Trigger laws, they call them. So what is more extreme about them getting exactly what they've been trying to do for 50 years? They're kind of in the same place. More importantly, this is a compromise. They're allowing abortion in blue states, even though they want it banned outright. Courthouse News Service. Crosshairs on Roe v. Wade could usher demise of other rights. Adam Winkler, who is a professor at UCLA, says the most obvious resort to policy over constitutional analysis in Alito's opinion is where he tries to assure that overturning Roe will not impact other privacy rights like interracial marriage. So this is where they get it all from. Alito's draft opinion is policy masquerading as constitutional law. At critical points in the argument, Alito abandons legal analysis for pure policy preference. At other points, his argument relies on weak evidence, like Roe v. Wade. Look, I don't care to argue the Supreme Court ruling where that's going. It is what it is. okay? And you can talk about it all you want. I think we're going to have a civil war. I think we are headed towards a civil war, and I don't think it'll be necessarily because of abortion, but I believe abortion may be the large catalyst. You ask people in the South what was the cause of the Civil War, and they'll tell you states' rights and a bunch of other issues. You ask someone in the South, why were Confederate soldiers fighting? And they'll say they were fighting for their homes. You ask someone from the North, or someone who believes, modern political history, they're going to say it was over slavery, and it was the Confederates were fighting to uphold slavery. Neither is wrong. It's just perspective. When the North fought, they're like, these people are upholding slavery and refuse to back down. That's their key issue. But it is fair to say, well, that was the main issue and the catalyst and what basically people were fighting to uphold. Inside the minds of the Confederates, it wasn't like they were coming out there and being like, we must have it. It was, we're fighting for our states. Many of these people probably didn't know what was going on. But more importantly, as I said, while slavery was the key component, there were a bunch of other issues. I mean, the war started with the battle at Fort Sumter because Union soldiers were in Southern territory. So you can argue the cause of it, there could have been no Civil War. The dissolution of the Union, the secession, slavery, the conflict, depending on how reductive you want to be. I want to show you a few statements from Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks to make my point. And I actually am in agreement with a lot of what she's saying. I'm not here to criticize her. I'm here to show she's making some points that I think are important. Hear this.
You pathetic corporate goon.
Okay, real quick. She's calling Nancy Pelosi a pathetic corporate goon. Yes, total agreement.
Okay, everybody power down. Unilateral disarmament on the issue of assault.
I can't wait until these people are gone.
She just said, I can't wait until these people are gone. Later, she goes out to disown AOC even. The Democrats have let us down. This is a video compilation provided by Gene Edits, Spangler creator on Twitter, who tweeted at me, but I think it's relevant. Now, I'm not a fan of grabbing these clips and then dragging them over the, they do it to me. I don't care for it. I don't disagree with Anna Kasparian. She says, I can't wait till these people are gone, out of office, or, passing on, I suppose. But, once they're out of political power, she says that the Democrats are feckless. We're not getting what we want. And I'm like, I know all too well what that feels like when you're dealing with the political elites. The Democrats weren't giving me what I wanted. They were doing insane things for power. They were lying for the most part. I said, I don't want to have anything to do with it. They were embracing critical race theory, and critical gender ideology. And Joe Biden pushed critical race theory trainings, getting rid of Donald Trump's executive order. I opposed that. I didn't vote for Donald Trump in 2016. Well, because I oppose critical race theory, because it's overtly racist and reductive of people, I said, I'll take school choice and I'll take Trump. I'll take the more libertarian approach. I understand that the Democrats want a more authoritarian approach, or they don't view it that way. Regardless, I disagree with them. But I certainly agree that the Republicans and the Democrats are not providing for the younger generation. Which brings me to civics. When you take a look at the 65 plus age bracket, which political party do you think is more concerned with the needs of people like you? You can see that 43 Republican, 42 Democrats. It's split. A lot of people like to show how the Republicans have moved further left or further right. They show these data points. What they fail to mention in all of these analyses is demographic breakdown and how that impacts what's happening. If you were to take 65-year-olds and ask them about their positions, it would look like the Republican Party in 1994. If you were to take 18 to 34-year-olds and combine it, you'll start to see what today's politics look like. That is to say, 65-year-olds, be it Democrat or Republican, hold the same positions for the most part that they did in the 90s. So we're talking about 30 years ago. That's when these people were in their 30s. These people, now I'm 36, they were more moderate and closer to each other. When we talk to boomers and older people on Timcast IRL, many of them are not aware of what modern politics looks like. When you then take a look at the same question, which party is concerned with people like you? 18 to 34, you can see 30% says neither. 41% Democrat, 25% Republican. Bad news for Republicans, mind you. But it's because the Republican Party's been trash. Even Republicans don't like the Republican Party. The Democrats are more likely to have people marching in lockstep, but that neither category, Those are progressives and conservatives. Those are progressives and libertarians. Anna Kasparian would probably fall into that camp. Neither party is working for them. I would fall into that camp. Neither party is working for us, even though Anna and I completely disagree. Where we do agree is that the parties are broken. Now, Anna is much more extreme in that she's personally misrepresented my positions. I don't talk about her positions. And when I do, as you can see, I agree with her positions and try to represent them accurately and fairly. That is to say, she doesn't like the establishment Democratic Party. The Young Turks and progressives feel the Democrats are not providing for what they want. And truth be told, they aren't. The Democrats are not enacting progressive policies. They're enacting weird social policies, but even Democrat voters think they've gone nuts on those issues. I think Anna and Cenk believe fake news. For example, when I said the people who were let into the Capitol, let in, will likely not get charged because trespassing requires a warning, they made a segment mocking me, saying it was the stupidest idea ever. Turns out I was correct, as a man gets acquitted basically like a month, like 2 months later. We'll likely see more acquittals on those grounds, charges being dropped outright. For those that were violent, they'll go to prison, as I've said they will and should. And I'm critical of that fringe group as well. It was several hundred people. There are certainly Trump supporters and people on the right who believe insane things. I do not believe that the average person associated with the right, libertarian, conservative, or post-liberal, believes those things. They don't. You know, Timcast IRL is one of the biggest podcasts in the world. It's kind of crazy for me to say, and I love all of you guys for supporting it. It's a weird position to be in, honestly. But the people who watch the show, were not even familiar with Marjorie Taylor Greene's statements or Steve Bannon until we had them on the show, because post-liberal, the Young Turks would paint it as far right, which is why I think you see 41% of 18 to 34-year-olds siding with the Democrats, because they don't even watch my show. I think it's the funniest thing, too, because whenever I get these weird criticisms from lefty cultists, I'm like, have you watched the show? And they're like, of course not. I've only seen some clips. I'm like, oh, okay. Because if you watch the show, you'd know that I'm actually I'm post-liberal. Post-liberal meaning in the 90s, I'd be a Democrat. In the 2000s, I'd be a Democrat. In 2012, I'd be a Democrat. And then the left went nuts. Now, because of political factions like Anna Kasparian's, the Young Turks, the progressives, because they're so far left, meaning their policy stances, their economic stances, and their social stances, that makes me closer to the right. Abortion is a really interesting issue. The Republicans want abortion banned, period. They've always wanted abortion banned, as I've been saying. The left, Kathy Tran in Virginia, argued for abortion up to the point of giving birth, meaning a woman could be in labor and you could kill the baby as it's coming out. I'm not exaggerating with that. That was actually presented by Kathy Tran in Virginia, answered to by Governor Northam on a radio show. Look it up. We've shown it so many times. Now, Northam said it's usually in the instance of non-viability or deformity, but the law isn't about that. The law did not say those things. It was about unrestricted. I can't agree with that. I can't vote for that. I am not that extreme. The left has gone there. Or they outright deny that's the position they've taken. Sorry, I can't do it. Let me show you this. Let me show you a few things. A pansexual Florida teacher canned for discussing orientation with students. This woman was talking about who she's being intimate adult-wise with middle schoolers and then telling them to draw pictures of their orientations. Yo, I'm sorry, I'm not that extreme. When you came to me and said gay marriage, I said, absolutely. I understand civil rights fight, privacy rights for people, and equality under the law in terms of a person being allowed to marry another person, interracial, LGBTQ or otherwise. But I said, leave the kids out of it. When you go to kids and tell them to draw these pictures, when you show them books representing adult activities that book genderqueer, which it does, Amazon says the book genderqueer is what it's called, is for 18 and up only, yet it was in middle school libraries. You have become extreme, not me. Here's my point. As the younger generations raised by these teachers get older, and they are more socially extreme, I will never compromise with those people. Never. There will be no compromise between when these teachers can start talking about adult activities with kids 5 years old to 9 years old. That's what Florida banned. Zero compromise. Zero. Never going to happen. The older generation didn't have those issues because they mostly agreed with each other, except for a few key wedge issues. They don't realize this. When the boomers age out of Congress and AOC is in Nancy Pelosi's position, the left and the right are divided, but it is because 65-year-olds, you go down in age, and here you are, 18-year-olds, couldn't be further from each other. And so that's the issue. When that happens, you are going to have people on the right being like, you are doing what to kids? And the people on the left are going to be like, you can't stop us from doing this to kids. When the left comes out and lies about the parental rights and education bill, I think it's fair to point out many on the left are just being lied to. When post-liberals like myself come out, or disaffected liberals, whatever you want to call it, and say, I don't think you should be doing this with kids, lady, I get called transphobic. Seriously? Okay, dude, well, I'm sorry. I will never compromise with you. You come to me and you say you want to ban abortion. I say, all right, well, I think it's fair to say we should have restrictions. Maybe first trimester should be a bit more relaxed in terms of government regulation. I do think it's wrong to use abortion as contraception, but I worry about privacy rights, and I worry about liberty issues and government overreach and regulation. But I think the Republicans make a lot of really, really great points on life. I think there's got to be some compromise. The left just comes out and says unrestrained, unfettered, unrestricted, and I'm like, I can't compromise with that. I'm not going to be like, okay, well, a viable baby can be killed. No, that's never going to happen. I am the compromise. When they say they would like to talk to 9-year-olds about, adults doing it and their personal lives, I say, I will never give you any leeway. There's no compromise. What are they going to say? Okay, well, what if we only talk to them about like these particular aspects of adult activities? No. Okay, what about nothing? Okay, what about, we won't talk about a home run, but what about talking to kids about third base? No. Okay, what about second base? No. What about first base? No. No, first base. You're not going to sit down. I'm not going to compromise on you going to kids and talking about kissing. Here's why two adults want to kiss each other. Sorry, not interested. You tell the kids, talk to your parents. The parents will decide. I'm never compromising. So where are we in 20 years? If it's true the younger generation embraces this stuff, you are going to have a Democratic Party that overtly says we should talk to kids about all of these issues, and a right that says over my dead body. And that's how you get civil war. Not because people are becoming more extreme, but it's because it's generational divide. And there you go. Let me give a shout out to neocons, Bill Kristol. The story of neoconservatives in 2 acts. Bill Kristol, so outraged. Alito hopes his draft is the majority opinion, but 5 votes may not be locked in to overturn Roe. If his draft doesn't stand up well to criticism and dissent, and the effects on the court look bad, couldn't a couple of justices join Roberts to uphold MS without reversing Roe? Here's Bill Kristol, 1998. Roe must go. Everyone who wants to indulge, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Kristol's a grifter. They want power. They don't have politics. Amazing. It's interesting. Now, someone responded saying, I don't care. It's an opinion from 24 years ago. People's opinions change. Yeah. No, that's the point. The neoconservatives in the late 90s used to say, get rid of Roe. And now they're like, I don't know about that. Okay. The point is, conservatives have not become more extreme. If anything, many elements of the Republican Party have now sided with the left. They are becoming more extreme. The country is moving leftward across the board. Staunch conservatives now supporting Roe? That's a leftward motion. I think conflict will come to this country in some form or the other. I don't know if it'll be like it was in the 1800s, people fighting each other in the streets and, battlefields. It could be culture wars. It could be bifurcation of the economy. I think it's coming. But we'll see, man. I'm not a prophet. Who knows? Next segment is coming up tonight at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimCastIRL. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.